I'd like to welcome Ricardo Lopez, who is the regional director for a company called Geopoll in Southern Africa. Welcome, Ricardo.
Thank you.
Great. So if you could just start by telling us a little bit about Geopoll and what you do.
Sure. Geopoll had its humble beginnings in text-in donations. Originally, we created some technology in the US that allowed respondents in emerging markets to essentially provide donations via text message. And from this initial initiative, we understood the power of this technology would rather best be suited to actually collect emerging market data. So from there, we started working with some of the world's biggest international development organizations around food security, disease, healthcare services, WASH services, behavior change monitoring and measurement. And since then, obviously just mushroomed out into more of a commercial space, working with some of the, private brands out there. And along the road, we've actually built some syndicated audience measurement products, which really just utilize large scale, high volume surveys that are running 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, collecting basic audience measurement information from about 7 African countries, including Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. We have actually been running some audience measurement in Mozambique for which was ultimately stopped in 2016. But as a company, very familiar and comfortable with the analytics and data around audience measurement.
Oh, interesting. So who are your clients then? Do you have kind of media companies and private sector on the audience measurement side?
Audience measurement side, it really does depend per market. So I'll give you an example. In Nigeria, we work with the communications authority there and run a TAMS panel for the Nigerian market. We, as Geopoll, don't own that data, but we work with a centralized government body that will either on-sell that data onto private brands or disseminate that across to their state-owned broadcasting channels. In the cases of other countries in East Africa, we predominantly cover the cost of that research ourselves, and then we've got a business development team that does go out into agencies, media planners, media buyers, broadcasters, and actually sells that data on a subscription model.
Interesting. So there are kind of rules to play for the public sector in some cases, and different actors within the media sector. So,
yeah,
I mean, wonder if you could maybe talk about those models in a little bit more depth and kind of what the incentive structure looks like. Like, how does the government of Nigeria benefit from holding that data? How does it vary?
Yeah, so it's okay. So let's break it up into the two models. One is essentially syndicated from our side. And one is led by obviously an official body or an organization. We as a company would ultimately prefer government backing to something like this, because what it allows us to do is it allows us to sustain larger sample sizes over an extended period of time. The data becomes really stable. We work with the statistics bodies within that country to determine national fallouts of demographic profiles. We find out the exact a sample frame to be employed. And once we have that buy-in from the government, we generally have a very easy route to market, in that we can essentially launch quickly, sustain it over time. And the government itself, the model that they would essentially have, a lot of them, is to provide this free of charge to their state-owned broadcasters, and then obviously charge it to private actors and private players in the market to just cover the cost of the actual data collection that is involved. Because there is a centralized body that is controlling this data, there isn't really a struggle for a small company like Geopoll to go in and really push to make these minimum subscriptions in each market. It essentially rolls and the data becomes really stable. In countries where we do not have the essentially a government buy-in, we are then really we often have to make concessions and cutbacks to that sample size to fit the required minimum budget for the market. This can potentially forego some of the data quality, but the age-old saying that some data is better than no data really does apply in an African context. So we get by with what we have in order to provide something to our clients and to the greater media industries at large. But our predominantly first point of call is getting buy-in with centralized bodies within the government. So we do know that we have the most robust product offering that we have in each country.
And under that model, when they sell the data or give the data to the state-owned broadcaster, for example, what's the real, what kind of data and how does it benefit the state-owned broadcaster?
So, I mean, in terms of broadcasters, specifically selling to media agencies, data is an integral part of that sales process, right? Is how many consumers am I reaching in terms of actual audience ratings or ARs? What are the demographics of those audiences that I'm reaching, and when do I need to advertise in order to reach them? So the data that we provide is essentially going to arm those advertisers to make better financial decisions when planning their media budgets. If they are exposed to these critical data points, you often find that spend increases quite substantially. So it's a very easy actual discussion to have when you have the information to back up what you are proposing, what you are selling, what you are trying to get advertisers to buy into. That's number one. And number two, really just positioning yourself as a thought leader on this continent when it comes to audience measurement. Often enough, a lot of the international development organizations want to understand this information before kind of, let's say, promoting condom usage or promoting effective water and sanitation practices. How do we know we are reaching our exact beneficiaries? Often enough, if the government has that data readily available for these international development organizations, it really makes that process of decision making and funding a lot more smoother and easier.
And do you collect data on kind of consumer behavior subsequent, kind of quality of consumer, quality of viewer, not just quantity? So, whether someone watched an advert and then went on to purchase the product, which might vary by kind of, the time, the type of content, for example.
So that would be covered under ad hoc or additional studies. We don't tie in any attribution models into the audience measurement, mainly because of actual size of or length of the survey and length of the questionnaire is already quite lengthy. We are measuring viewership across 4-hour time bands. So every 4 hours we get a demographically matched sample together, and we ask them at so let's say it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. We ask them, did you watch TV or listen to radio in the past 4 hours? And then we go back in half an hour time blocks and we request at 8 o'clock, what were you watching? At 8:30, what were you watching? At 9, what were you watching? And so on and so forth. When you start to build that out and start to add in certain things like, did you see any available advertising on the TV? What was the adverts that you took note of? Did you actually get inspired to make a purchase? Things like that, it becomes a little bit too long and we get certain kinds of drop-offs. But what we do is we use those existing panels for additional ad hoc research. So I'll give a very basic example, is if we are looking for females in an urban area who have bought hair care products in the past week. We can then start to identify and cross-tab who of them have been exposed to certain messaging throughout that week, and then slowly but surely just determine if that messaging had any impact on any potential behavior or purchasing decision. So
Interesting.
we would treat it as a separate project altogether.
So one of our kind of assumptions from our other media work we've done elsewhere is that people are more likely to change their behavior when the content is engaging rather than just having seen it. And kind of that in the Mozambique example, we're using like soap operas and things like that that are a bit more, not a donor advert that just says buy condoms or whatever. Then
Yeah.
have you done any research anywhere that kind of looks at what type of content is more effective?
Yeah, tons. And when coupled with an actual audience measurement product in market, we've done this extensively in Nigeria, where we have taken certain shows that have been potentially deemed taboo by the general state, and mainly them more around political content and political shows that are kind of entering the market. A lot of it sponsored by foreign entities and foreign programs wanting to essentially utilize content to get messaging across. So what we've essentially done is looked at, recruited a bunch of respondents into a weekly panel, shown them different creative sets, whether it be advertising or full pilot shows of a specific program, and then attached a questionnaire to evaluate the content of that. Do we change the color schematics? Do we tone down the political rhetoric? Do we include more respectful presenters, things like that? So we can really, utilize a database of respondents and disseminate rich media content to those respondents, and then evaluate feedback and then refine the content and keep reiterating the testing process going forward. That is something that we have done substantially, mainly for the private sector and the FMCG space, where they're really looking at, A/B testing creative, right? Where we can show two separate GIFs on a mobile web survey, incentivize our respondents with airtime, so it's free to respond, and you get this airtime for watching a short 2-minute video. And then we kind of ask questions about that video. A couple of questions later, we will include another video, ask the same level of questions, and then gauge the responses and evaluate which creative is the strongest to go to market with. That level of A/B testing is possible with a high volume survey platform.
Interesting, great. So about Mozambique, then you mentioned you were there in the past and left. What are the kind of barriers or incentives that would cause you to enter a new market like that?
In terms of, we are still currently working in Mozambique. We've got probably about 15-20 projects currently running in Mozambique. I was referring more to the audience measurement product that we had in market. We were running it for 2 years successfully for 2016, and our biggest anchor client in that country was Coca-Cola. Really huge kind of marketing, above the line marketing budgets to push their products. They pulled out of, they canceled our audience measurement contract and devised the budget elsewhere, which then just, resulted in us having to pause that product specifically. What would involve us getting back into an audience measurement solution is potentially a group of advertisers making a minimum of about $6,500 monthly investment into audience measurement in the country, and committing to that $6,500 monthly investment over an annual term. And once that happens, we've already got existing, kind of infrastructure there to be able, and integration with the mobile network operators to be able to just flip a switch and present audience data within a 6-week period.
Oh, interesting. So the barriers aren't that significant then. I guess there may be advertisers in the room who are kind of excited by the prospect.
Yeah, and you know, it's a thing with governments is owning it versus the private industry owning it is, you know, there isn't a strong collaborative nature or ecosystem within the private sector firms, right? It's kind of it's kind of a difficult task to get a bunch of advertisers to agree on something and all have a say in the actual product development of that in order to get it going. It would be really nice if, you know, everybody could actually just say, look, let's just look at a really low cost way in which we can all benefit from this. And make it really robust and sustainable. And yeah, if everybody's got access to the same data, it really is just up to those companies on how they use that data internally to better further their marketing efforts in the country. So that's really something that I think is important to stress is, you know, if everybody has a level playing field in terms of the information they're receiving from the country, what really is the unique selling point or differentiating factor is how you use that information.
Interesting. And they need not be competing companies as well, right? It just needs to be a big enough group to pay for the measurement, and then it's done. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Great.
There are organizations in Kenya. There's CAF in Kenya. There's the BRC in South Africa, and these are organizations that act as a go-between between the advertising industry and essentially the audience measurement players in the country, and they are the organizations that will select an audience measurement partner based on the requirements for the country. And I think where we see those organizations present in the market and where we work with those organizations, that is really the that's where we see the most success. We see the most sustainable data. We see the most robust samples. We see the most robust scope and sampling frames applied. So it really is just appointing that body within a country and, you know, going through a formal tender process with a research company, and it really isn't difficult. It's just a little bit of setup and you're there.
Interesting. Well, hopefully we can make some progress in that regard, and this workshop is hopefully a step in that direction. But yeah, thank you very much for your time. It's been really useful.
Pleasure.